politically speaking, and there has been political upheaval in El Cajon with the longtime mayor stepping down in the wake of a heated confrontation over allegations of racism lodged by the city's large Iraqi-American community. NBC7's Mari Payton is here with a couple guests to sift through the issues. Mari.
Gene, thank you. Earlier this week, Mayor Mark Lewis was under scrutiny for comments about El Cajon's Chaldean community. The publication, The Progressive, released an article in which Mayor Lewis is quoted as saying Chaldean school children who get free lunches are, quote, being picked up in Mercedes-Benzes. The mayor ended up resigning late Thursday, and this morning I'm joined by Mark Arabo with the Neighborhood Market Association and Bill Wells, Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, Mark, I want to start with you.
Sure.
The mayor said he was stepping down primarily for health reasons. He did have a stroke back in 2010. Right. But you and other elected officials called for his resignation just hours before he actually did so.
Right.
What's your reaction now?
It's a step. It's a good step in the right forward. It's a good change. We're hoping for a new El Cajon, open for everybody. And I think it's important to talk about the context of his comments. There's an hour and 8-minute long interview that's on the internet. And he said a lot of things about African Americans, Latinos, Vietnamese folks. I mean, he says one time, if you see a dark-skinned person in El Cajon selling drugs, you don't know if they're Mexican or Chaldean. So it wasn't an issue just about school lunches. And I hope it doesn't come off that way of insensitivity or people saying, you know, there's prejudiced comments. If people listen to the audio, and I hope Bill will listen to and other council members, it's damaging. I was a supporter of Mark Lewis. I supported his campaigns in the past. I liked the man in the past. But when I found out there's an audio of a mayor attacking his own citizens, not for the content of their character, but for the color of their skin or for what they are, it's unacceptable. So we're happy that he's done, but I hope that the council members will step up and either denounce his statements, retract his statements, or apologize, because Bill has been the only one out of the four vocal about it. And I remember Dr. King, he says, we don't remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So it's really important to see, to move forward, how the council and the planning commission sees the comments of Mark Lewis that he said about African Americans, Mexican Americans, Vietnamese, and Chaldeans. So I hope the story doesn't come out, well, it's just the Chaldeans that are complaining. If he's saying that, you know, Mexican Americans and African Americans are fighting for the drug business with Chaldeans, that's unacceptable.
Well, Bill, what's your reaction to his resignation? Because earlier in the day, he had issued an apology, but hadn't mentioned a resignation. So did it come as a surprise to you and other elected officials in the city?
Well, it did come as a little bit of a surprise. I was hoping he wouldn't try to hold on and stay in office longer than he should have. His comments were indefensible, and he had really nothing he could do besides resign.
Is there an issue of racism, though, within the city, or does it end with Mr. Lewis?
Well, that has been my point all along. People came to the council meeting the other night, and they were talking about kind of a more institutionalized racism than just the comments that Mark Lewis had said. And I asked people time after time, can you show me an ordinance? Can you show me some action of the city council that has showed some bias, some racism that has hurt you in any way? And nobody can answer that. I really can say safely that this is a city that is fair and is treating all its citizens equally.
Now, a good point we can make right now about institutional racism.
Okay.
The mayor of the city of El Cajon appoints the planning commissioners solely, and the council confirms them. He's been in the city for 25 years, and he's made statements about all minorities. And when we talk about district-wide elections, when we talk about appointing diverse folks that are qualified, that love the city, they're shunned away. And so the city council right now has a great opportunity for a fresh start. And if they're sincere about it, and I know that they're trying to, I've only heard from Bill, I haven't heard from Gary Kendrick or McClellan or Ambrose. If they want to, they could appoint an African-American woman, Vicky Butcher. That'd be the first time in history in El Cajon you have African-American woman for city council. She was on the planning commission for 12 years, and Vicky's one of many top qualified candidates. But the big issue is, are you going to go to politics as usual like they were doing, or a fresh start? And I think that we encourage the council, and people will see actions.
Well, we want to give Bill time to respond
Sure.
to this.
Yeah.
Moving forward, what can you do? I mean, this is sort of a blemish, if you will,
It is.
on elected officials, the city of El Cajon in general. So how do you change that moving forward? Are there any changes planned, or will you talk to the city council? What's the plan next?
Well, honestly, I think the main thing that we do is the main business of the city, we're really have been involved in trying to reshape El Cajon from a business perspective, from a social perspective. If you haven't been to El Cajon in a while, you should come and see how beautiful it's become. But I want to address what Mark said. It would be easy to give you a political answer and say, well, of course we're going to look at all things. I think he's right. I think we have to, when we appoint the next person, we're going to have to be very sensitive to the fact that there have been complaints that all of the people that make up the diversity of races in El Cajon have not been as represented as they'd like to be. So I'm going to be personally pushing very hard to find somebody who's qualified but also represents those other parts of our community.
And what happens to that position now in terms of the mayor's position?
To be completely honest, I'm not exactly sure. I know that I take over the duties of mayor for right now. My understanding is the official title will be acting mayor, but the attorneys actually try to figure out what the official title is going to be. I will be acting mayor until we get all that sorted out. And probably at our next council meeting, we'll either set a date for another election or we'll appoint the mayor for the last part of his term. Mark only had a year left in his term. And then if that were to be the case, if one of the council members would be appointed the mayor, then we'd have a spot open. We would have to have either a special election or an appointment.
Do you feel optimistic
Optimistic that
toward the future of El Cajon? I mean, is this a new beginning for the city, do you think?
I do. You know, Mark has served the city well. I know he said some horrible things, and I'm not defending that, but he also had 25 years of doing a lot of good work in El Cajon. But it's probably time to move on. I think it's time to have a professional-oriented council that's going to really take the city where it needs to go, and I'm excited about it.
Okay, Bill, Mark, thanks for joining us this morning. I appreciate it. Jean, we'll send it back to you.
And still ahead in the home stretch of politically